Latest offerings from the film world now on BBC One, Under Scrutiny, Sharp and Sagacious, with Barry Norman.
Tonight, Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster star in The Silence of the Lambs. Cher gets together with Bob Hoskins in Mermaids. And Robert De Niro finds himself guilty by suspicion. Good evening. If, with all those recent cup finals and internationals in mind, you were to think of The Silence of the Lambs as a football match, you'd have to say it was a game of two halves, Brian. The first half, wherein trainee FBI agent Jodie Foster tries to enlist the aid of the seriously psychopathic Anthony Hopkins, a.k.a. Hannibal the Cannibal Lecter, in tracking down a serial killer, is a tense and marvellously gripping psychological thriller.
You spook easily, Starling?
Not yet, sir.
See, the one we want most refuses to cooperate. I want you to go after him again today in the asylum.
Who's the subject?
The psychiatrist, Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal the Cannibal.
I don't expect him to talk to you. But I have to be able to say we tried. So if he won't cooperate, I want just straight reporting. How's he look? How's his cell look? Is he sketching, drawing? If he is, what's he sketching? Here's a dossier on Lecter. Copy of our questionnaire and a special ID for you. I have your memo on my desk by 0800 Wednesday.
Okay. Excuse me, sir, but why the urgency? Lecter's been in prison for so many years now. Is there some connection between him and Buffalo Bill, maybe?
I wish there were. I want your full attention, Starling.
Yes, sir.
Be very careful with Hannibal Lecter. Dr. Chilton at the asylum will go over all the physical procedures used with him. Do not deviate from them for any reason whatsoever. And you're to tell him nothing personal, Starling. Believe me, you don't want Hannibal Lecter inside your head. Just do your job, but never forget what he is.
If you're wondering why Jodie Foster seemed to be oozing sweat there, it's nothing to do with fear. It's because she'd been yanked off a training run to go and see her boss, Scott Glenn. However, the second half of the film, in which Foster sets about finding said killer, Ted Levine, a.k.a. Buffalo Bill, is also tense and gripping, but much less marvellous, because by now, unfortunately, Hannibal the Cannibal has gone AWOL. In the end, The Silence of the Lambs is merely a very superior thriller, which, when you think of most of the thrillers around, is not all that mere, actually. But what made it a cinematic sensation in America, and may well do the same for it here, is the sheer class provided by an admirable performance from Foster and an astonishing one from Hopkins. Hannibal the Cannibal is himself one of the all-time great Hall of Fame serial killers, happily already in custody when the film starts. A man of giant intellect, courtesy and excellent manners, flawed only by a streak of unspeakable sadism and a tendency to eat the more tender parts of his victims, preferably with a good Chianti. It's the exchanges between him and Foster and the tortuous mind games he plays with her that give the first half of the film a dreadful fascination.
Oh, Agent Starling, you think you can dissect me with this blunt little tool?
No. I thought that your knowledge...
You're so ambitious, aren't you? Do you know what you look like to me with your good bag and your cheap shoes? You look like a rube. A well-scrubbed, hustling rube with a little taste. Good nutrition's given you some length of bone, but you're not more than one generation from poor white trash, are you, Agent Starling? And that accent you've tried so desperately to shed, pure West Virginia. Where's your father, dear? Is he a coal miner? Does he stink of the land? You know how quickly the boys found you, all those tedious, sticky fumblings in the backseats of cars, while you could only dream of getting out, getting anywhere, getting all the way to the apple pie.
You see a lot, Doctor. When are you strong enough to point that high-powered perception at yourself? What about it? Why don't you Why don't you look at yourself and write down what you see? Maybe you're afraid to.
When Hannibal escapes both from jail and for a long period from the script, and Foster is left to hunt down Buffalo Bill, a would-be transsexual whose forte is killing and skinning young women, you do feel a sense of loss. Thereafter, there's plenty of good, creepy action, but the real drama is over. Hopkins' portrayal of deliberate evil, a man who makes Norman Bates look like a pussycat, should surely win him next year's Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, and Foster could be nominated too. Both are strongly aided by Jonathan Demme's direction and an excellent script by Ted Talley, who adapted Thomas Harris's novel. This is not, I must point out, a film for the squeamish, and the use of women, Foster apart, simply as victims, leaves an unpleasant taste. But that apart, and if you don't squeam easily, it should hook you from scene one. Incidentally, a few years back, Brian Cox played Hannibal Lecter in Manhunter, adapted from Harris's earlier novel Red Dragon. He was very good too, but comparisons are otherwise unfair because Manhunter was not such a good movie as The Silence of the Lambs, which, no doubt, will feature very soon in the list of the top 10 films in London. But at the moment, the list looks like this. At 10, White Palace, Susan Sarandon and James Spader in a tale of sex, lies and hamburgers. 9, These Foolish Things, Dirk Bogart's welcome return to the screen in a slice of sharp nostalgia. 8 is Predator 2. Cop Danny Glover tracks down a ghostly vigilante in Gangland, LA. 7, The Hard Way. Movie brat Michael J. Fox teams up with antagonistic cop James Woods. 6, Dances with Wolves. Kevin Costner's Oscar triumph still sitting comfortably in the charts. And 5, Hamlet, the play's The Thing, with Mel Gibson, Glenn Close, and Alan Bates as the King. At 4, The Doors, Oliver Stone's visually stunning tribute to the 1960s band. And 3, Sleeping with the Enemy, Julia Roberts tries to escape from a nightmare marriage. 2 is LA Story, Steve Martin's wry look at the absurdities of Tinseltown. The top of the list is Misery, James Caan and #1 fan Kathy Bates, excellent in Stephen King's psycho thriller. In nice contrast to the unpleasantness so graphically depicted in The Silence of the Lambs, we now have Mermaids, an amiably freewheeling romantic comedy set in the early 1960s that features Cher, Bob Hoskins and Winona Ryder. Cher plays a glamorous, self-centered mum whose culinary skills run no further than providing finger food 3 times a day, and who dresses for dates, as teenage daughter Ryder puts it, like a woman prepared to go forth and sin. Ryder talks like this because she desperately wants to be a nun, which is not too easy when you're Jewish. Cher's husband, Ryder's father, took off years ago, and she now has a second daughter, Christina Ricci, the result of a one-night stand with an Olympic swimmer whose name the careless woman never caught. Like her absent husband, Cher is a bolter. When romance turns sour and the going gets tough, she gets going, preferably to another part of the country. And it's in another part of the country that the family encounters Hoskins, a divorcee who owns a shoe shop.
Because I'm the best mother in the world.
I'll be right with you.
Hail Mary, full of grace. Katie did.
You must be Mrs. Flax. Joseph told us that a nice Jewish family were our new neighbors. Welcome to Eastport.
Oh, God, please let Mrs. Flax control herself.
Still a perfect 7, Reverend Miller. You know, most women's feet get bigger.
Only if they marry.
Oh, no.
You know, your feet swell. When you get pregnant, your feet swell.
How could she? How could she?
I don't mind that swollen when I was pregnant.
Mother, how could you say that? She's a holy vessel.
What a lovely red shoe.
Thank you.
So, who are you ladies from? I used to live in South Dakota myself. Can you imagine? Trying to keep kosher in South Dakota.
I can't imagine trying to keep kosher anywhere.
Yeah. Will that be all, Reverend Mother? Only one new edition?
Every year, Fewer and fewer of us now. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Blacks. I hope you enjoy living in Eastport. Yes, dear.
I desperately wanted to ask what color her bra was and if she had pure thoughts every second of the day, but...
Well, goodbye.
The story is told often, as you may have gathered, in voiceover, because Cher is not exactly the kind of mother a girl can easily confide in, from Ryder's point of view. It's rites of passage stuff, as she observes the blossoming romance between the warm, dependable Hoskins and the flighty, wary Cher, and then herself falls deeply in lust with the local handyman, Michael Skeffling. This, of course, only adds to her problems. I mean, a Jewish girl who wants to be a nun, but is also desperate to find out what sex is like, is clearly going to be a touch confused.
So, Joe, tell me about the nuns in the convent. Do they wear underwear in the shower?
I don't believe I said that.
You know, I'm too embarrassed to take a shower after gym. Mary O'Brien, she dances around naked, screaming about her boyfriend's quivering loins.
Shut up, Charlotte. Shut up.
Their boat's down there.
Please, God, let him throw me on the ground and make another Joey Jr.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. I do want to be good and virtuous, but it isn't easy.
Come on. Do you want to bait your own hook, or do you want me to do it?
Mary, Mother of God, he still wants to fish.
Well, the film, directed by Richard Benjamin, is loosely constructed and sort of ambles engagingly along, never really getting anywhere. But June Roberts' script is crisp and amusing. The teasing, bantering relationship between Cher and daughters is always enjoyable. Bob Hoskins is fine, and Winona Ryder, who was so very good in Heathers, is a delight. Pretty, gawky, inseparable from her favourite wellies, and hitting exactly the right note of teenage perkiness and vulnerability. However, here now is the second part of our occasional cliffhanger on who does what behind the movie camera.
Focus puller's primary job is to make sure that the picture that you see is sharp, bearing in mind that the moving image changes from a static shot of somebody to somebody in the background, a moving shot of somebody, a tracking shot of somebody. Each of those has a point that needs to be sharp. Other roles that a focus puller would do is to maintain the camera, look after the equipment, and also check the gate to make sure that the gate, which is the aperture through which the film is exposed, is clear of all debris. Okay, Michael, good gate?
Good.
The boom operator holds the microphone above the heads of the actors on the end of an arm called the boom, pointing it at whoever is speaking and being careful to keep it out of shot.
I can see the boom shadow there.
Is this the boy? Meanwhile, taking copious notes of everyone and everything in front of the camera is the continuity assistant.
When you're filming, you would perhaps do a wide shot first, which would have perhaps a lot of people in it, and then you would have various close-ups of all particular people. And so I would have to make sure that the positions they were in were the same, and that what people do in relation to what other people do is all in the same sort of order. When you're working on a film, everything is recorded totally out of order. And it's my job really to make sure that, say, when someone comes out of the bedroom into the living room, they're wearing the same clothes. If they had a hat on in one shot, they still must have it on for the second shot. And just basically that people do the same thing.
Sure about this. Is it? Of course, there are plenty of other people involved in the making of a film. It's a very labour-intensive business and depends highly on teamwork. But whatever the job, one thing is certain. 90% of it involves simply hanging around. Filmmaking is very slow and very boring to watch. In a 10-hour working day, maybe 3 minutes of finished film might be produced. still want to be in the movies? Yeah, I suppose so. Now then, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, the play that launched the precociously talented Tom Stoppard in 1967, was a glorious display of verbal pyrotechnics. So now is the film version, directed by Stoppard himself. Admittedly, at nearly 2 hours, it's perhaps a shade long for the screen, and if asked, which of course I wasn't, I would have warned Stoppard against the hubris of grandly announcing his directorial debut as a film by Tom Stoppard. A modest credit saying directed by was good enough for John Ford and is still good enough for Woody Allen. However, as you will recall, Rosencrantz, Gary Oldman, and Guildenstern, Tim Roth, or possibly vice versa, one of the joys of Stoppard's play is that nobody, not even the characters themselves, is quite sure which is which, were called in by the suspicious Claudius to spy on their old school friend Hamlet, here portrayed by Ian Glenn. What Shakespeare omitted to tell us and what Stoppard brilliantly fills in is what exactly these two did while they knocked around Elsinore preparatory to taking Hamlet off ostensibly to be killed in England. In Stoppard's hands, R&G become Shakespeare's Laurel and Hardy, always unsure of who they are or where they are or what is going on, while the rest of the play takes place, as it were, off stage, partially glimpsed and overheard by them, but never fully understood by either. They exist in a kind of comic nightmare of incomprehension, baffled alike by the machinations of Hamlet and Claudius, and no more in charge of their destinies than a pair of pawns on a chessboard.
Fancy a game?
We're spectators.
Do you want to play questions?
How do you play that?
You have to ask questions.
Statement 1, love.
Cheating.
How?
I haven't started yet.
Statement 2, love.
Are you counting that?
What?
Are you counting that?
Foul, no repetition, 3, love, in game.
I'm not going to play if you're going to be like that.
Who's served? Hesitation, love, 1.
Who's go?
Why?
Why not?
What for?
Foul! No synonyms. 1 off.
What in God's name is going on?
Foul, no rhetoric, 2-1.
What does it all add up to?
Can't you guess?
Are you addressing me?
Is there anyone else?
Who?
How would I know?
Why do you ask?
Are you serious?
Was that rhetoric?
No.
Statement 2, all game point.
What's the matter with you today?
When?
What?
Are you deaf?
Am I dead?
Yes or no?
Is there a choice?
Is it the God?
Foul. No non sequiturs. 3-2, 1, game all.
What's your name?
What's yours?
You first.
Statement. 1 love.
What's your name when you're at home?
What's yours?
When I'm at home?
Is it different at home?
What home?
Haven't you got one?
Why do you ask?
What are you driving at?
What's your name?
Repetition. 2 love. Match point.
Who do you think you are?
Rhetoric. Game and match. Match.
Well, as I said, a little trimming here and there would not have come amiss, but there are numerous delights to be found. Stoppard has tinkered cheerfully with his original work, as indeed he has the right to provide plays within plays and word plays within word plays, and he's admirably backed up not only by Messrs. Oldman and Roth, but equally by Richard Dreyfuss as the player and Ian Richardson as Polonius. The film, you may be interested to learn, won the Golden Lion Award at Venice last year. By contrast, Guilty by Suspicion didn't win anything at Cannes last week, but it's not a bad movie for all that. Robert De Niro plays a hotshot film director who returns to Hollywood in 1951 after a spell in Europe to find himself under suspicion by the House Un-American Activities Committee, the iniquitous body set up to sniff out communism in the movie industry. In effect, De Niro is regarded as a premature anti-fascist, the glorious phrase invented by HUAC to describe all those who supported Russia against the Nazis before it was politically acceptable to do so. He refuses to cooperate with the committee and finds himself on the blacklist, unemployable either in Hollywood or New York, and continually under surveillance by uptight young FBI agents.
What should I see a lawyer for? I start having meetings start rumors. Next thing you know, they will call me.
They're going to call you. The guy asked me about you. The same thing that happened to me is going to happen to you.
No, it won't.
The hell it won't, I'm telling you. I hope you're making a lot on those rewrites, because you're going to have to get a good lawyer. What the hell is this shit?
It's Retsina.
You drink Greek wine? Why don't you drink mezcal and go all the way?
I'm scared shitless, David.
Well, maybe it's the Retsina.
I mean it, David. I am.
Oh, I am too. Everybody is.
If you're so scared, why'd you come back? That's what I'm curious. Well, you come back and you get named.
What, do you think I wanted to get named?
And I get named, and Joe gets named.
What are you saying?
Nothing.
You think I would name you?
No.
Bunny.
No.
You think I would name you?
No.
You're my oldest and my dearest friend. You
Just
think...
forget I said it, okay? Would you?
How can I forget
Please
what you
forget
just
I said
said?
it.
How can I forget?
What am I supposed to think, huh? I know how much your films mean to you.
But all that notwithstanding, this was a time when friends betrayed each other to get themselves off the hook. George Wendt, as a scriptwriter, also under suspicion, eventually begs De Niro's permission to name him as a communist at his own committee hearing. Even estranged wives, in De Niro's case Annette Bening, suffer by association. The smart ones, Martin Scorsese, for example, as a thinly disguised Joseph Losey, escaped the blacklist by fleeing to Europe. The others stayed behind, sometimes to fight, but mostly to suffer, losing their careers, their money, their homes and their marriages.
Well, look, I've been dodging a subpoena for 2 days now. So I'm going to dodge it permanently in London. It's the only thing I can do. Which means that I'm going to abandon my creation, and David here's going to complete it for me. That is, if he promises not to mess it up.
You're walking out on a $3 million picture? Gave him final cut. It cost me points. And you're not cutting the picture? Come on, Joe, you can't do this.
96, please.
It's a violation of your contract.
Forget the contract. It's wrong.
It's not wrong, Lenny. If he gets served a subpoena, the studio will fire him and he won't be able to edit the film anyway, so it's not wrong.
Do you mind? Take the fifth, for Christ's sakes. You don't have to incriminate yourself.
I can't do that, Lenny. I can't do it. My lawyer said if I do that, I can wind up in jail for contempt.
But you don't have anything to hide.
Mike, I'm a communist. I was a communist 20 years ago. I'm a communist now.
I don't want to hear that.
Well, you've heard it.
I didn't hear anything. Did you hear anything?
I didn't hear anything.
Joe,
No speeches. I know what you're going to say. Nellie made the same speech. You know, I love this place. I love it here. But, I mean, I can't stay. Because it's not my country anymore.
you just can't let him do this to you. You can't let him get away with this.
Well, what do you propose I do?
Yeah, I don't know.
Inform of my friends? Because that's what they want, you know. I want me to inform my friends. They want me to name names, involve innocent people, ruin people's lives. There's nothing noble either. I mean, I just can't do it. I have to stay out of rooms with mirrors for the rest of my life. I can't do that. I like looking at myself too much.
Guilty by Suspicion, written and directed by Irwin Winkler, covers the ground faithfully and often movingly, but somehow it lacks dramatic tension. It plods where it ought to race. Until the fierce climax, De Niro spends too much time wandering around in a state of angry frustration and not actually doing a lot. The performances are good, but there's no real attempt to set the story against the historical context, the height of the Cold War and anti-Russian hysteria. But at this stage, let's move on to some movie news. Now, the last film of the evening, Sibling Rivalry, is a black comedy, well, greyish rather than black, involving Kirstie Alley as a downtrodden housewife who, in a moment of wild abandon, gets picked up in a supermarket by a man with an enormous moustache, Sam Elliott, and spends the afternoon with him in his hotel room. Unfortunately, the moustache seems to have sapped his strength because after the fifth bout of sex, he expires, albeit with a most contented look on his face. The body is discovered after Alley had sensibly got the hell out of there by a Venetian blind salesman, Bill Pullman, who thinks he has caused Elliott's demise. By the time Pullman has contacted Alley and sorted matters out, it's too late to call the cops, so they try to make the death look like a suicide. But since Alley stuffs the corpse with laxatives and menstrual tablets, nobody's deeply convinced.
Look, as soon as you and Harry clear things up, then you won't be so jealous of me.
I am not jealous of you.
Oh, yeah? Then why are you crying?
I am crying
crying because Harry's brother died.
Oh, please, you didn't even know Charles.
I knew him.
Oh, right, well, you knew of him, but you didn't really know him.
I really knew him. I killed him.
Marjorie, do you have your period?
Are you listening to me? God damn it!
You never curse.
Oh, Lord, forgive me. Now I have 2 things to confess in church this week.
What are you talking about?
I knew him in the biblical sense.
What?
I met him and we did it.
You had sex with your brother-in-law?
It was not sex. It was good.
What do you mean?
I had one.
One what?
You know.
Oh, I don't believe this. Oh, when you said you killed him, how'd you kill him?
Sex.
Sex?
I had an affair because you told me to.
Around the basic nonsense revolves all manner of sibling rivalry. Ali's with her flaky younger sister, Jamie Gertz. Pullman's with his upwardly mobile brother, Ed O'Neill, who's in line to be Chief of Police. And back in the Ali homestead, her doctor husband, Scott Bakula's, with his doctor sister, Carrie Fisher. Oh, and to complicate matters even further, Bakula's and Fisher's doctor brother, absent for years in South America, has mysteriously gone missing on the way to his homecoming party. But we know what happened to him, don't we? The gorgeous Kirstie Alley reveals here, as she does in Cheers, that she's a very talented comedienne. But alas, the rest of the film isn't really worthy of her. It's amusing enough, but director Carl Reiner doesn't extract much in the way of memorable performances from anyone else. And he also fails to give the movie the pace and urgency it needs. And that's about all for now. Next week we have Steven Seagal in Marked for Death, and we go on location to Budapest to talk to Bruce Willis on the set of Hudson Hawk. But for now, here's a scene from Francois Truffaut's Jules et Jim, which was made in 1962 and which has now been dusted down, ready for re-release next week. Goodbye.
Elle avait des bagues à chaque doigt, des tas de bracelets autour des poignets, et puis elle chantait avec une voix ici, au manjola. Elle avait des yeux d'opale qui me fascinaient, qui me fascinaient. Il y avait l'ovale de son visage pâle, de femme fatale qui me fut fatale, de femme fatale qui me fut fatale. On s'est connus, on s'est reconnus, on s'est perdu de vue, on s'est perdu de vue, on s'est retrouvés, on s'est réchauffé, puis on s'est séparés. Chacun pour soi est reparti dans le tourbillon de la vie. Je l'ai revu un soir, aïe aïe aïe, ça fait déjà un fameux bail, ça fait déjà un fameux bail. Au son des banjos, je l'ai reconnu, ce curieux sourire qui m'avait tant plu, sa voix si fatale, son beau visage pâle, mais mûr plus que jamais. Je me suis saoulée en l'écoutant, l'alcool peut oublier le temps. Je me suis réveillée en sentant les baisers sur mon front brûlant, les baisers sur mon front brûlant. On s'est connus, on s'est reconnus, on s'est perdu de vue, on s'est perdu de vue, on s'est retrouvés, on s'est séparés, puis on s'est réchauffé. Chacun pour soi est reparti dans le tourbillon de la vie. Je l'ai revue un soir, ah là là, elle est retombée dans mes bras, elle est retombée dans mes bras.